Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Mammoth Application 70 and says, am I the a-hole for suing my mother and her husband over child support payments? Unfortunately, this is a story that continued from a previously off my chest story. To break it down, I have a terrible dog allergy. And during my childhood and teenage years, my mother decided it would be smart to not only get one, but four. Through that, she managed to completely isolate me from my family. And I couldn't leave my room whenever I was home, since the dogs were allowed everywhere, and I couldn't stay in the room with them without being unable to breathe and constantly sneezing. I lived like that for 4 years before I had enough and moved on to my university campus. My mother fought for me to stay. Not because of me, but because she would miss my dad's child support payments, since she was legally required to give them to me now. Our relationship became pretty frosty, but at one point we sat down and had a conversation, and I thought things were now okay. She continues to pay me monthly, and I have a decent job, so I managed to find a place of my own. Well, over the last few months, I found out my mother wasn't paying the full support to me. It was about $200 less than it should be, which she kept. I confronted her and told her that I need the money for uni and my apartment, but she claimed what she's already paying me is more than enough, and that I need to get my spending habits under control. I told her I can't work full-time because of my degree, but she simply didn't care. Since that money legally belongs to me, I've decided to talk to a lawyer about suing her for the amount she owes me, and the one she kept to herself all my life. I went through with it, and we are now settling this through court. My mum's husband begged me to drop it and said he would pay me around $1,000 as compensation, and that I need to think about the fact that they still have to pay off their house, that the dogs need food, that he has to support my sisters, etc. Even my dad told me I was being too harsh on my mother. I simply don't care about that woman who's isolated me my whole childhood. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I have 3 sisters and I'm the oldest brother. The only thing I'm concerned about is losing them in the process because I know I have to go no contact once this is settled. She's already been calling me non-stop and I blocked her number, and she's been using my sister to contact me. She's a really good manipulator, so I'm really worried and wondering if this is all worth it. Edit 2. Originally added as a comment. Hi guys, thank you for all the comments. This has really given me a lot of reassurance that I'm doing the right thing. I can't thank everyone individually, but all the well wishes mean the world to me and show me I'm not alone in this mess. I didn't expect this much support, but it means a lot. Can't lie about the fact that I've been scrolling all day, and since then felt a lot better. As to some of the questions, my sisters are 18, 12 and 9. The oldest is my stepsister, daughter of my mum's new husband. The other 2 are half siblings of mine. They mean the world to me. I feel very protective of them, and I did everything I could in my situation to be a good brother to them. At the moment, I'm also trying to support my oldest younger sister with her wish to move out. She might move in with me. I hope I can keep contact through them in secret or through my grandma. I'm very scared of losing my youngest sister. To the Germans in the comments, I checked out the pronunciation on this, and I'm not sure if it's right still or not, but I don't get a fook. My parents are both really well off, and I tried multiple times explaining my situation. I don't get anything that would support me. I applied for a Wohngeldbescheid, and I'm waiting for the result of that. I'm sorry. I've been working since I was 16, and before moving out, my mum did take part of my money for rent, so there is a pattern. My mum managed the child support, and my dad is a very, let's just keep it the way it always was type of guy. So he just kept paying my mum and trusted her to give it to me, even when I told him I don't get anything. I am very happy with the rational comments I'm receiving because I catch myself still trying to excuse her behavior. I love my parents dearly. I love my family. I don't want to be in this situation, but at the same time, I don't see what else I can do. Thank you for the support, and I promise to keep posting updates. Absolutely not the a-hole in this situation. She's been endangering your health for all these years. You've been unable to breathe and constantly sneezing because she chose to get 4 dogs knowing that you've got an allergy, which I just find absolutely batshit insane, to be quite honest. Imagine doing that to your child. Imagine getting the dogs, bringing them into your house, which is bizarre in itself, but then seeing your child having to isolate themselves, shut themselves in their room just to survive. and then not stepping back and thinking, oh, what have I done here? Absolutely bizarre. And whilst I'm not going to pretend to try to understand the child support system, especially in different countries, or that I know a bit about the UK system, but not anywhere else. But from the way I've read it and listened to this story, she's simply stealing from you at the same time. So not only putting your life in danger, stealing from you as well. Sod that. But Substantial Lion says, not the a-hole. I find it comical that you were told to get your spending under control by the people who are stealing your money to be able to afford dog food for the dogs that are the reason you had to move in the first place. Cherry Crystal's reply saying, I know, I understand 2 dogs so the dogs will have company, but 4 is too much, especially since they can't afford it. Also the fact that the mum bought 4 dogs knowing OP's allergy gives me no empathy for her. OP, sue her please. Bitchhand replies to that saying, I don't understand the dogs at all. Having a child who is extremely allergic, and in many cases further exposure increases both the allergy and the allergic response, means I wouldn't have a dog at all. I wouldn't add a second dog to physically torture my child even further. If I had a kid who was that allergic, I'd carefully find the dog a new loving home. I wouldn't keep piling on dog after dog. Giselle says, not the a-hole. What your mum's husband and dad expect from you is being the bigger person. But ask yourself, is your mum ever going to make it up to you? Will she be thankful to you for letting it drop? Is your relationship with your mum even worth it to you anymore? I mean, I absolutely love my dog. I would quit a relationship over my dog, but getting a dog when your child is allergic? What nonsense is this? Key Tai says, not the a-hole. In my opinion, she is abusive, is stealing from you. It's funny that they want you to be the bigger person, except going through the legal system will make you the bigger person since you are letting the law judge them, not you. The husband has definitely calculated that the amount she owes you is much greater than 1,000, which is why he wants to pay you off. Don't accept and stick to your guns. If there are legal fees, try and get her to pay them as well, since you wouldn't have to go to court if she hadn't stolen from you in the first place. Also, by going the legal route, you're teaching your sisters to stand up for themselves and not to be a people pleaser. Miss Chaos says, not the a-hole. I went and read your confession post, and honestly your mum sounds terrible. She didn't at all care about you or your health as a kid and neglected you. You wanted love and affection but had to be a prisoner in your own room. Her telling you to get your spending habits under control when it's your money she's withholding is ironic. And she's the one who wasted cash on 4 dogs. She can't seem to pay for without taking yours. Your dad might mean well, saying you're too harsh, but he clearly doesn't understand the amount of emotional neglect you probably felt as a kid. And I didn't read the post from True Off My Chest subreddit because I think OP covered most of it at the very start of this post, but we may go over it as like a prequel after the update. So OP did update the post. They said, hi guys, I thought I'd use the holiday to finally sit down and update the situation because there was a turn of events. First of all, I want to say thank you again for all the support I got, but I did not proceed with the lawsuit. I'm going through the paperwork to drop everything and decided to settle this matter with my parents without a court involved. I think part of this is definitely the continued harassment my family put me through. I did not have a quiet minute since my first post. It was so bad that I'm currently on vacation with a friend to get some space from this mess. I decided that not losing my sisters mattered more to me than the money. I took my stepdad's offer and he upped it to $2,500, which is not near the amount that they owe. But I'm not in a bad living situation and it's fine. In the future, the full child support will go on my account and not hers, and she agreed to pay her part as well. I graduate university next year. As soon as I do, I've decided to move out of state and start from zero. I will stay in close contact with my sisters, but I will make sure my parents can never contact me again, and if they do, I will block them. One thing the comments kept telling me is that every adult in my life has failed me, and it took almost taking my mother to court to realize how right everyone is. I was abused, I was treated awful, but they won't get to me anymore. Thank you all for encouraging me. I needed to hear it. I'm wishing everyone the best. Someone questioned OP about the child support. They said it's interesting. Child support is usually owed to parents, not children. I'm curious how the legal system works over there, or if this was an out-of-court settlement. OP says, I get the payments because I'm still in university and was basically forced out of my home earlier than I could fully support myself. The law here states that child support must be paid until the first vocational training is complete. This could either mean a university degree or an internship or something along those lines. If I don't live with my parents and I'm over the age of 18, they have to pay me directly. And that was the end of OP's update. But as I said, we're going to go back to the off my chest confession which OP said about the dog and why he hates his mum, etc. So it says, my mother decided to get a fourth dog. This made me hate her. And remember, this is before the last post. Hi, I'm just posting this to get my thoughts out of the way. My mother has always been really passionate about animals. She raised me as a single mum, and I understand she sacrificed a lot to care for herself and me. My dad got a new girlfriend when I was 10 and she had a dog. This is how we found out that I'm terribly allergic. Allergic to the point that staying with him in the same room would have me gasp for air and constantly sneeze. My dad did everything to treat this, drove me to therapy weekly and made sure I had medicine around. I reacted pretty heavily to the medicine, so it was only an emergency option. This didn't help much and my mum constantly bashed my father and his girlfriend for having the dog, although he was with her before me and I didn't live with them. Well, 4 years later, she became a complete hypocrite and got a dog herself. At first, I was excited. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs, and through the therapy, I had less struggles. But it was hard, I won't lie. My mum didn't stop there though. She got another dog, so my first dog wouldn't feel alone. At this point, we were living in a small apartment. I couldn't leave my room for most of the day because it was the only dog-free zone. I had troubles being in the same car as my dogs and still had to care for them too. Although they really affected my breathing and caused lots of headaches from the sneezing. At one point, I had a sneezing fit and a vein exploded, leaving my eye red and irritated for weeks. My mum took me constantly being in my room and being on my own as me being introverted and not craving any affection. When this couldn't be further from the truth. I was always someone who craved affection, especially as a kid. I just couldn't because my mum would cuddle with the dogs and consequently I'd have another allergic fit. Looking back, I know that I should have brought it up sooner, but whenever I addressed how I felt, she called herself such a terrible mother for being able to give me a good life, and I had a terrible childhood, so I dropped it. Each time when I was 17, we moved into a bigger house because my stepsister moved in with us. A year into living there, my mum asked me permission to get a third dog, to which I said no, but she got him anyway. I knew no meant nothing to her. She had made a decision long ago. Well, this was the final straw. I could no longer eat at the dinner table. I couldn't stay in the living room. I pretty much did what COVID did to most of us for 4 years straight. I lived in my tiny room. If I didn't, I was with friends. I was never with my family. I never joined my family on the couch to hang out with them. I never joined them on walks. I barely drove the car. The one time I did, I almost crashed it because I had a sneezing fit. The dogs are allowed everywhere in the house, on the couch, on the chairs, at the dining table, in every bed and every room except mine. It was hellish. It made me feel so awful. I spent 2 years working to get out of there, which I did. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment close to my uni. My mother fought me every step of the way. At first I thought it was because she would miss me. Later I understood it was because of the child payment my father paid that she would now have to give to me. Well, this all really put a strain on our relationship. My mum announced they'll be getting a fourth dog and she has plans to lay the foundation for a dog trainer group in my hometown. I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting because of everything that happened in the past, but this felt like a punch to the guts. I resent her for isolating me so much. Edits, I'm realizing this post doesn't explain why the fourth dog was what ticked me off. Basically, she called me yesterday and requested I pay the tax for the new dog, or at least help her, and that this would be the perfect Christmas present. It was insulting and kind of made all the doubts I gave her crash. And coming back on it, there's no way that I can believe she thought that you were just being introverted and just hiding in your room. She knew about your allergy. I'm damn sure she spotted the signs that you couldn't be walking around the house and when you did you were sneezing, etc. That is incredibly sad, but now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Broccoli OK923, who says, am I the a-hole for taking my brother-in-law to small claims court over art supplies? A bit of context. I, 29 male, like to draw and try other mediums as well. As such, I've accumulated a lot of art supplies over the past few years. My wife Sally, 27 female, also dabbles a bit, and we have converted one of the rooms in our home to an art studio of sorts. There's easily a few $1,000s worth of art supplies in that room, and we tend to keep it locked for that reason. Most important to me are my pencils and markers, which were not cheap. Chart pack for those who care. On to the story. Sally and I had a family over for her aunt's birthday a few weeks back, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law brought their kids with them, 7 female and 6 male. We had forgotten to lock the door to the room that day. About an hour into the party, I noticed that both kids were nowhere to be seen. So I asked my sister-in-law if she knew where they were. She said they were drawing in the other room. I asked if my wife was with them, and she said she just told them which room it was in. I immediately rushed over to the art room and found it was a total mess. Most devastatingly was the fact that all my markers were ruined because the kids were using way too much force, causing the tips to fray. I yelled at them to get out and they started crying. My brother-in-law ran over and started yelling at me that they're just kids and it's just markers. I told him that the markers alone were $17 a piece, and he said I was stupid for paying that much. Sally tried to defuse the situation, but my brother-in-law started yelling at her too, saying we can't have this much art supplies and not expect kids wanting to use it. I told him he's paying to replace the markers and other supplies they ruined, and he told me to go fuck myself and left. Everyone left shortly after that. I totaled up the damages and I needed to replace about $375, and found that the kids drew on a piece I had spent the past week working on as well as ruining a finished piece Sally did. I sent him a bill and he blocked me. So I talked with my friend who was a lawyer and had him draft a claim for small claims court and a letter to send my brother-in-law. I paid him for this, of course. My wife's in agreement about this, but her family has been mobbing us, telling us we're being ridiculous over some markers. Only my father-in-law has also taken up painting recently, and my other sister-in-law saying that brother-in-law has to pay. Am I the a-hole? Now, we've had basically a similar story to this in the past, but it was to do with like collector toys. I think it might have been even Star Wars figures, and a kid, I think it was a nephew or a cousin, stole one of the figures, took it home, took it out of the packet and was playing with it. And when this was all discovered, they were saying like, why are you keeping toys anyway? How can you expect the kids not want to play with the toys? They're just toys. It's like, come on, man. And in this, when OP asked sister-in-law where the kids were, she already knew that they were drawing in the other room. They knew that they was using these art supplies. And who does that? The entitlement of just sending the kids to someone else's art room and yeah, crack on. Use what you like in here. Part of me was thinking like, was it okay to shout at the kids because they probably knew no better? The parents probably guided them into that room to do it anyway, to keep them out of their hair while they were talking to the adults or whatever. But I can imagine the shock from seeing your $17 a piece markers being fucked up. And in a hypothetical situation, you know, I'm there, my kids have ran off somewhere and I found that they ruined someone's expensive art supplies. I would be devastated, embarrassed, and of course, offer to replace them as well. But like I said, that's obviously not the situation. They sounds like they was guided into that room to keep them out of their hair whilst they was in the house. Could you have locked the door? Yes, but it still doesn't matter. It's your house. They should be keeping an eye on their kids. Simple as to me. And mistakes do happen, sure, but if they do happen, don't tell someone to fuck off. Pay for them. Cute Guinea Pig asks a question and says OP should have locked the door, but I'm still going with not the asshole because sister-in-law just let them go play with markers in someone else's house unsupervised. The type and cost of markers is unimportant here because it's completely in character for a 6 and 7-year-old to use the markers on anything they could reach. Basically, brother-in-law and sister-in-law need to learn that they don't stop being parents just because they go to someone else's house. And $375 might just be the way to do that. Someone else had the comment, are you willing to break apart the family over this? And that's a good question. Sometimes not seeing the person ever again prevents them from hurting you again. But I don't think that fits here. Another commenter says, everyone sucks here except the kids. You didn't lock the door, that's on you. The kids didn't know they were doing wrong until you started screaming. That's on you. And you probably could have replaced a healthy chunk of the supplies with what you spent on the lawyer. That's just petty. Sister-in-law shouldn't have given them permission. That's on her. Brother-in-law should have agreed to compensate you. That's on him. Your wife also didn't lock the door, and she's back in your play about court. That's on her. It's a shame that you all think $375 is worth dropping a grenade in the middle of your family. Split the replacement costs and call it a day. Mistress Liliana says not the a-hole. Parents need to watch their own kids. How entitled is it to just send them to a room in someone else's house and tell them to go wild with whatever there is without even asking? I don't get all the you're the a-hole and everyone sucks here. Saying you should have locked the door. How about the parents watch their children and make sure they stay with them? Though in this case, that wouldn't have helped because they felt their kids were entitled to your stuff. The way they wrecked 2 pieces of actual art is the worst part of all. Tyrannosaurus Rex says, I'll go with not the a-hole based on your sister-in-law's comment. She said that they were drawing in the other room. I asked if my wife was with them and she said she just told them which room it was in. Sister-in-law ought to have known that you don't give your kids permission to do something like that without asking. Small claims thing is likely to burn all bridges with that part of the family though. And one more comment from Heart of the Rockies who says, not the a-hole. Everyone was over for a few hours for a dinner party. No adults got permission for their kids to play in a private place. No adults supervised. And this is not those kids' home. They do not live there. Why on earth did the parents assume the kids were okay to play unsupervised with adult art supplies and adult artwork in a room with a closed door? Art supplies are expensive and a lot of adult art supplies are extremely toxic. For those saying it's no big deal, imagine if the kids were in your bathroom playing with and destroying $400 of makeup, just absolutely destroying a collection of MAC Bullet lipsticks and dropped and destroyed your favorite designer perfume. Still no big deal? Okay, imagine if the kids went out back to play in the shed with your carpentry tools and destroyed a project with a handsaw and 5 totally different wood stains. Still okay? Your gamer with a private gaming room with a vintage GameCube collection and the kids left out, stepped on and broke an old game disc valued at $375 while playing unsupervised and without permission in a private room no hosts expected people to be in. All good here? I don't understand those of you voting you're the arsehole. I expect guests, especially short-term dinner party guests who bring kids to my home to utilize my home respectfully, which includes not raiding my things without permission. Now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Would you have taken brother-in-law to court over this? Do you agree with one of the other comments saying you're just dropping a grenade in your family? Let us know your thoughts down below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. Truly, it's incredible. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.